Do you know that English words have their own siblings? Yep, they do. And some of them are way more interesting than the ones you're stuck using. Have you ever noticed how English learners cling to the same verb like look, say, laugh, or listen? They're everywhere. And sure, they work. But honestly, they're flat. Like ordering plain rice at a buffet and pretending it's fine. Writers, especially in novels, don't settle for plain rice. They season it, fry it, and throw in some spice. Today I'm going to show you how these boring hypernyms explode into their richer siblings that actually make your English sound alive. And by the end, you'll see how swapping one plain verb for a more colorful one can completely change the vibe of your sentence. Let's start with look, because even the simplest act of seeing has shades and flavors. First up, a glance. A glance is a quick, almost secret look. It's short, sharp, and over in a second. You use it when you want to notice something without drawing attention. You know, when you check your phone in a meeting, pretending to still pay attention, that's a glance. She glanced at her phone during the meeting. Now, if you stretch that look out, make it soft, slow, and lingering, that's a gaze. A gaze is tender, often romantic, and shows prolonged attention. He gazed at the stars like they owed him rent. Gazing lingers, is soft, and can carry emotion. But if your focus becomes intense, fixed, and maybe even a little rude, that's a stare. Staring is strong, unwavering, and sometimes awkward. Picture a kid in a candy store with their face pressed against the glass. The boy stared at the cake like it was his destiny. Staring communicates intensity, curiosity, or impatience. Next, a peek. Small, sly, and secretive. Peeking is playful and not meant to be obvious. I peeked through the curtains to see if the delivery guy had finally arrived. It's perfect for sneaky or mischievous moments. And finally, when your look carries anger, judgment, or danger, that's a glare. A glare is sharp, hot, and feels like a punch without fists. She glared at him until he finally shut up. Glaring shows displeasure, warning, or threat. See? 5 different shades of look. Same eyes, but 5 different moods. Now, let's talk about say. Plain say doesn't tell us how something is said. Whispering, shouting, muttering, murmuring, these matter. Take whisper. That's your soft, private voice. He whispered, "Don't tell anyone, but I ate the last cookie." Whispering makes it secretive, intimate. Now imagine muttering. That's low, unclear, maybe annoyed. She muttered under her breath about the boss being arrogant. Muttering is when the words are meant to be heard clearly. Sometimes the opposite happens. You shout. Loud, aggressive, impossible to ignore. He shouted across the street, but the traffic drowned him out. Shouting always grabs attention, wanted or not. Then there's murmur, that is softer and gentler than muttering. almost romantic. She murmured a thank you and slipped away. Murmuring has warmth, a quiet softness. There's also the chaotic one, blurt. That's when the words escape before you're ready. He blurted out the secret and immediately regretted it. Blurting is impulsive, messy, honest. Now let's shift to something a little lighter. Love. Because not all loves are created equal, and the differences can tell a story all on their own. For starters, a chuckle is a small, restrained laugh. It's polite, amused, and not too loud. It's often used when something is mildly funny or when someone wants to keep their composure. He chuckled at the bad pun, even though he wasn't sure it deserved it. Moving from that subtle laugh to something a bit higher and lighter, we get a giggle. A giggle is often childish, nervous, or a little silly. You'll hear it in schoolyards, in awkward moments, or when someone is trying not to take themselves too seriously. The kids giggled when the teacher tripped over chalkboard, unable to contain their amusement. So while chuckling keeps it polite and controlled, giggling lets the joy bubble up a little more. If the laughter has an edge, sneaky, or slightly mean, that's a snicker. They snickered at his haircut, thinking he couldn't hear. Snickering conveys slyness or disrespect, and it's perfect for scenes where humor has a hint of mischief or judgment. And then, for the loud, dramatic, almost villainous laugh, we have cackle. It's exaggerated, wicked, and impossible to ignore. She cackled as if she had just pulled off the greatest prank in history. Cackling stands out because it's full of character and attitude, whether in fiction or real life after a few drinks. And finally, at the extreme end, there's the guffaw. This is full-bodied, explosive, and impossible to hide. He guffawed so hard that coffee shot out of his nose. A guffaw isn't just laughter. It's joy turned up to 11, a complete release of amusement. See the progression? From the restrained chuckle to the childish giggle, the sly snicker, the dramatic cackle, and finally the uncontainable guffaw. Each laugh sets a different tone and reveals something about the person doing it. Then, let's think about listen, which also comes in different flavors depending on intention and context. When someone is listening secretly and intentionally, that's eavesdrop. She eavesdropped behind the door and caught every juicy detail. Meanwhile, over here happens by accident, without planning. I overheard two strangers arguing about pineapple on pizza. But if the focus is serious and deliberate, the person is paying attention to avoid consequences, that's heat. He never heeded his mother's warning about the cliff, and unsurprisingly, it didn't end well. On a more casual tone, if someone listens voluntarily or chooses to focus, you could say they tune in. Tune in next week for the rest of the drama, or don't. It's your call. And finally, for the dramatic, old school, poetic listening, there's hearken. Hearken to the tale of the brave knight who fought a dragon that literally represented his taxes. So there you have it, 4 simple hypernyms each with a handful of colorful hyponyms that can seriously level up your English. Next time you're reading a novel or even just writing a message, pay attention to how authors don't settle for plain verbs. Try swapping a basic say or look with one of these, and notice how it completely changes the mood of your sentence. If you found this video helpful, share it with someone who loves English as much as you do. And I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me which English topic you want me to cover next. It could be verbs, vocabulary, idioms, or anything you've been struggling with or curious about. I'll pick the best suggestions for the next video.